administration.
Hello, my name is Tom Bloom, one of the county commissioners. Ed Hawkins is also back here, and also Eldon Callan. On behalf of all three of us, we want to thank you for coming for a really exciting evening, we believe. What you're going to see today or this evening is about 75% done. It's the concept and designs that we're working on. And what we're going to do is hand out papers for you to complete if you want to, or you can think about it and then send it to us at the county commission, which just basically comes up with different questions, concerns, ideas. We'd like you to write it down. You have the opportunity as we go through this, if you want to ask specific questions, fine, but what we're trying to do is, if you have any individual specific comments or concerns, afterwards they'd be more than willing to meet with you to discuss it, and then we'd also like to write it down so we can take a look at this. We're asking that all this be done by December 9th because we're moving forward on this. Our goal is to move in the springtime and start working on this and have it done, because this will make it an amazing change to the downtown area. And at this time, I'd like to introduce Mr. Michael Mills from the Mills Group, who will introduce the other members, and then he has a presentation, 3D video, and then we'll go from there.
Great.
So thank you, man.
Thank you, Tom. Well, welcome. I'm Michael Mills from the Mills Group. I'm the principal of the Mills Group. We're an architecture planning preservation firm actually located right down in the Wharf. We spent about 6 years across the street on High Street at 206 High Street. With me is Juliana Laredo. Juliana is a landscape architect as well as an architect. And I've got Gabe Hayes with me, who's a principal landscape architect with Wallace Pancher, who is our collaborating consultant on this project. So they're providing landscape architecture design, site civil, water, stormwater management services as we head into this design. We pride ourselves on this project because we were selected back in March. Obviously, it's a public process. We were a competitive process. We competed against national firms to win this award on our merits and our past experience. Gabe and I have been collaborating together for the past over 10 years and on similar projects to this, such as the farmers market here in town, some work in Moundsville at the courthouse there, similar project. So we're excited to share this with you. Our firm prides itself on really designing on the principles of the past and preserving for the future. So you'll see some of that here in our presentation, and some of the contextualism, really kind of picking up on sense of place, really making something of the courthouse plaza. So a couple things to kind of get into this, and I think Tom's mentioned this past publicly, the commissioners have. The reason why we're doing it really is there's some life safety issues here on the courthouse square, which are important to protect for the welfare of the public. There's just some basic code issues, ADA accessibility, things of that nature, and just basic maintenance. We've got some ongoing maintenance challenges and issues to deal with here. And really, in the end, from our perspective too, is we really want to create a sense of place, something that's we're very proud of, something that's going to enhance downtown and make a mark on High Street. We'll get into that. First, part of our due diligence is really researching the history. So just a little context for you all. Back in 1784, there was a courthouse that was first built there. In 1802, that courthouse was replaced. And in 1848, the courthouse that you see there was built. That's important to note because our current courthouse replaces that one. But also, Patrick Henry was the statue that was on top. He was very involved with Virginia at the time, West Virginia's separating and becoming its own state. So he was kind of an early part of the movement of the formation of the state. So you'll see him come back into play here as our design comes to life. So 1890, this building gets demolished, and we get a new courthouse in about 1891. So this is an early courthouse photo, about 1896. So part of our due diligence too was understanding the development of the courthouse square. When were the monuments placed on the square? We've done some research. We know the history of all those, and that's important. The other amenities that are on the courthouse squares from the past. There was curbing, there were always trees on the courthouse square, so we feel that's an important design element. And you can see in this further photo, and Juliana, maybe bounce to the next one, there was actually a fountain on the courthouse square historically. And we feel that's an important element, and you'll see that come back on our concept design. And here's some of the early photos of that fountain as we were able to zoom in and find some historical context of that. And what's interesting is that fountain was designed early on to really kind of mimic the statue, the cupola that the statue sat on. So that's an important piece of it. And Patrick Henry, which now resides actually in the rotunda, as you go up to the County Commission's office, a replica of that statue resides there today. And that's it on the right-hand side there. In the 1960s, the plaza was redone, pavers were put in, some planters were put in, and that's just kind of an aerial view of that plaza. On the right, the memorial, you'll see some of the veterans' war memorials and such that currently reside behind a gated area on the plaza, and those are very important to the public, and we're being respectful and kind of reworking kind of the display of those. We feel that's an important aspect of the courthouse square, and so you'll see those here in the design shortly. One of the other things we did early is we engaged the county surveyor. So we were able to get very good data as far as the boundaries, the topographic information, site information such as sewer, water, electricity, and really get a base map. We didn't have a very accurate base map, and that was important for us to move ahead with the concept and ultimately move ahead with the design construction documents. This drawing, which Gabe's going to explain, just for orientation purposes, so you all, this is High Street on the bottom, Chancellery Row here, Walnut on that side, and this is the outline of the courthouse, with the courthouse steps here, and then the Citizens Bank building on the right. So I'll let Gabe kind of share a little bit of the existing conditions and some of the site analysis that we did.
Thank you, Mike. First of all, where the two red circles are, is where a majority of the people come to the courthouse, so those arrival points to the site are very important. It's certainly the main entrance, and one of the aspects that we ascertained and listened, the fact that the courthouse sits back and away from Main Street, so to give folks a sense of arrival that you're coming to the courthouse, or folks that aren't familiar with, perhaps with the downtown, to know where you are and to have that really grab you is important. So that was a highlight. Obviously, the parking garage is down here. A lot of folks walk up Walnut and to the entry as well. So, and here again, that's the Walnut Street entrance. It's very narrow, and then the front area here, where the Emerald Ash Borer's got the ash trees in the front. So then the focus really needs to be on the welcoming folks into the courthouse. Currently, we have a set of stairs, a very nice entrance, but I'm going to get to the accessible ramp. The folks that come in with disabilities are coming in a side entrance, which was an old window that was adapted into a ramp. So we wanted to look at how to possibly combine that to the Americans with Disabilities Act laws, which really want you to bring everyone in together and not as separate entrances. We also were looking at other aspects. We've got a lot going on over here in the front corner. This is another building within the block here. And then this is, again, the image of the ramp. In the large plaza, this is part of what Michael was talking about. Some of the pavements are changing, moving. There's starting to be trip hazards. But it's also an area that according to the laws that are on the books, has to be open for potential farmers markets, that folks have the right to come and sell and display in this space. It does have an old planter, but it's always been a gathering space, an open public space. So we wanted to honor that in the design itself, which you can see here. So to break it down a little bit, again, to orient, this is the outline of the courthouse. That front entrance that you saw was here. That walkway up Walnut, from Walnut rather, is right here. And this is High Street, right? It's an existing little bump out. So to help grab people's attention, to sort of realize that you've come to a courthouse, we wanted to extend the pavement of this access to the front door out into the sidewalk, right up to where the current brick band is along the street curb, and actually have the seal, the county seal, right there in the pavement. It could be bronze, there's other ways to do it, but to really bring that out into the street. And then as an enforcement to that, and you'll see in the 3D images better, right here and right here are two curved wing walls that it actually says county courthouse right there. You know where you are. So that's an entry feature. And then this corridor really leads you right to the front door. So you have that enhancement, that focus. And the trees would help do that. We'll talk a little bit more about that as we move on. As a cross-axis, we have this space. And this was one of the more exciting parts of the design when we realized that if we take the actual map outline of the river and shrink it down, appropriate to the size, or appropriate to the proportions rather, this is an exact replica of the river. And this is its source, and it flows through, and right here is Morgantown, and that would be the Mason-Dixon line. It's in the same north-south orientation, and it just so happened to work out where Morgantown would be right in the cross-axis of the other axis. That doesn't happen all the time for us, so we were very excited. But the idea here is that that river in the pavement would be glass. And there's glass you can buy, you've heard of the Grand Canyon, right? You can walk out over the Grand Canyon on glass. Well, this would be that same effect. It's very high-strength glass, textured to be non-slip, with LED lighting underneath. So in the pavement, you would see the glow, and that would be part of the aspect of the design where it's very uniquely to Morgantown and to this county. So also part of that, the fountain would be at the source of that map river, and we would replicate that original historic fountain in approximately the same location. And then at the end would be a statue of Patrick Henry, again calling back that history of that second courthouse. Not the same statue that's in here, but another replica of Patrick Henry. And then as a backdrop, a low wall with one of the largest monuments being at the rear, and having some of the other monuments, instead of having a bunch of them just right in a row, dispersing them through the site. We've had spaces over here for monuments and other potential locations as well. Part of this space is to have a large open space for that original use, markets or gatherings as would be desired on this courthouse square. And again, that idea that there are always trees on the courthouse square, and the fact that we've lost some, these we would replace them. And we'll talk a little bit about it specifically what those would be as we go on. Instead of having the accessible ramp for persons with disability coming up and going in a window, we would restore that window to its historic look and feel. There's a group of 3 there, and then bring the ramp right up to a central gathering spot so that you gather everyone from each street into one location and then into the courthouse. So essentially the existing steps would be covered up, build a platform that comes out, and then the steps would go down here and here in this design. Another aspect of this space would be a stage. So a couple steps up for veteran ceremonies, Memorial Day, any kind of ceremonies that do happen or could happen. It would be a location with utilities such as electric, where you can have a presentation, and then you have other opportunities as well. You could do something similar from up here into this space, have gatherings here. So it's a very multifaceted space to be used for different types of events. Also in this zone, we have an area to make sure that we collect the current pavers, that are memorial pavers in the pavement that are there now, and make sure they're placed respectfully in the wall so that those and perhaps any other future monuments would have locations that they can go, so that we're not randomly putting things in the plaza in the future. They have predetermined locations where they make the most sense. For both, again, the ones that are existing and ones that may come in the future. Okay, and then coming up from Walnut Street, again, trying to grab the attention of folks coming by that this is an approach to the courthouse, again, with another seal, or the opposite side of the existing seal. So we could have one side of the seal up front and the other side of the seal back here. And then widening that walk so that it's more welcoming, it's more open. All of this would be lit a lot better than it is now too, so that safety factor is there. But again, to weave that history into the design, this center band going up from Walnut Street sidewalk up to where the steps are would be a timeline in the pavement of significant dates in the history of the county. Terminating then with the idea is to have a 3D model of perhaps just the square or even the whole city area, downtown area, that would be in a bronze where folks get an understanding of the context of where they are in the city. This is also a great tool to use to interpret history and to interpret places for folks who are blind or have low sight. They can really see the space by checking out the model. There's also some interpretation that's currently on site in that, whoops, hit the wrong button, I apologize. Go back. Some interpretation that would be right here as well. So that's really at that hub where all the circulation comes together from a pedestrian standpoint would be where we tell some of that story of the history of the county. I told you we get into the trees a little bit. This is a little vignette of the design we just looked at, and there would be 4 trees. This is a black gum, so it's not a huge shade tree that will overpower the space, but a medium-sized tree. It's full, beautiful fall color, and can handle the conditions in which we're talking about. And by the way, too, with some of the stormwater, and to be environmentally conscious, we want to use some of these planting areas to let stormwater soak in, and make sure that we're doing all the appropriate types of stormwater erosion control protection measures. All these plants, this whole selection that we're looking at here, is to get a full 4 seasons effect. So bark, fall color, flowering that is spread throughout the year, and low maintenance. Okay. So these 4 trees would be these small service berries. Again, service berries have spring color, we have fall color, and then berries that are non-toxic and great for wildlife. Then we have one, this location right here on an axis with that river corridor would be a nice little pink dot. Some of the smaller shrubs and plants, viburnums, taxus for evergreen color, or a yew as a common name. And then some of the ground covers and lower plants, daffodils for the spring. We have some early summer color with liripe, which is a nice ground cover. Purple coneflowers for later in the summer. And then some sedges down here at the bottom for a nice lush green cover that's low maintenance. And low-growth sumacs are absolutely beautiful in the fall. They have low maintenance and can tolerate salt as do some of these others. And finally, inkberry at the bottom. So that gives just a sense of some of the aesthetic characteristics, and Julianne's going to talk a little bit about the hardscape characteristics.
So for the hardscape, we have 3 different main materials. The first one is concrete, and just because it's so versatile to use, and it can provide a good texture. The second one is Techo block pavers, and we're thinking about using this material as an accent where the river corridor is and also where the timeline on the alley is. And then brick, we did notice in the historic photos that brick has been used throughout history on the plaza and then of course on the building.
And just to jump in real quick, to replicate what was said before, all this would have snow melt system. So to have this installation of this plaza in this era last longer, where we're not putting chemicals, salt, and plows, and if you put snow melt to it, a snow melt system underneath where you heat the concrete, it makes it last longer. You get more life for the capital dollars that are put into this project.
And then for lighting, we selected this light fixture that is a little bit, it's not too modern. And then we have the bollards. These are, some of them are removable, and then some of them are fixed. And then we have this one that can be lit up, and it's got solar panels, or it's solar powered. And then we have uplighting that can be used throughout the pavers and then even underneath the plant material.
So this is a example. This is an example on the top of some of the materials and the looks that you can get with the glass and lighting underneath. And the image down below is from our 3D model, which we'll fly through here in a minute. But that's the look going through the pavement that image in the river would portray. So I just wanted to give you a sense of that. And the timeline, again, going through the history. We picked some significant dates so far, but that's something really that can develop with the Historic Society and with input from the folks here. It'll really be exciting to be able to tell the story in different ways, go through the pavement, through some of the historic features that we've had in the past, and through a site model. This is an example of one that's in a large area done in bronze to give you a sense of a city in the downtown.
So now we're going to give you a little sense of what this place really could be, will be, through the concept design. So this is a 3D video that we produced that models the concept. It takes you in from the air and then flies you in through the space. So it's kind of going to walk you through.
And I neglected to mention the flagpoles there in front, another way to grab attention as you go by the square.
Not exactly. I mean, obviously there's a little bit of interpretation there, but we feel that starts to give you a sense of what this could be. There's next is some still photos, and we'll kind of walk you through some aspects of it to kind of zoom in on more detailed things. But we use this tool a lot, really as a design tool, but really help folks that can't read plans or can't read architectural drawings. It helps to kind of visualize things.
So this really gives you a sense of that, as I mentioned earlier, that focus to the front door with the gateway elements, good signage right out there on the street, and the trees to help enforce that, reinforce it. And again, the existing monument.
He's not gonna look like that, is he?
He's gonna be on the dime. Yeah, he's gonna be on the
It's
dime.
not a modern interpretation.
You can only grab so many models on the internet to do this kind of thing. But again, there would be a statuary there, and then the river that leads up to it. The block that, or the pavement that's tan would really replicate a stone look with the Teco block that Juliana referenced earlier.
And again, this is the sense of the porch, really pulling that entry out, creating a porch for the courthouse, really kind of bringing that entry feature and the arms out to you. It's kind of working off from the walls up front, and then another set of cheek walls.
Are the stairs going to be heated also?
Yes. The overview that kind of get a sense of both of those spaces. The space Gabe explained before, kind of a larger gathering area, that cross access of a space with the river. On the stage, you're seeing the stage here off on the left. So it goes up the ramp, flattens out to a stage, and then ramps again, flattens out again.
Again, those flagpoles being out on the street, we really all feel that that's a great way to grab folks. You see, wait a minute, usually when you see three flagpoles together, there's an institution, in people's minds. So it would be that immediate recognition that there's something there.
Lighting's very important. We've talked about that. Lighting, amongst the poles that we have there, but also uplighting the monuments themselves, the veterans memorials, uplighting the steps themselves, just from a safety perspective, uplighting the flagpoles themselves.
It'll be a very bright, lively space.
And the fountain's important too in that regard for liveliness. There's only one other fountain downtown, and it's actually at the other county facility down at the end of High Street. So that noise of the water we feel is important. We don't want to have attractive nuisance of water. We don't want a pool in the ground. We want the water to run much like, that's why we really were attracted, one, from a historical perspective to the fountain, but also from a functional perspective. You have that a fountain that doesn't have the large pool at the bottom. It's just a cup.
Can you explain that photo there and
Yeah.
you know what I'm about to say?
Yeah, so one of the things that the commission tasked us with were the memorial bricks that are in the ground, and that's an important piece of the history of the courthouse plaza. People have donated money to have those in place, but they've become a tripping hazard over time, and really there was a desire not to have them again as a paver in the plaza. So we've actually placed them within this cheek wall of the ADA ramp, so they'll be very visible. And actually the design has been modified since this rendering. In the plaza, the pavement actually comes in to that, so you can actually get a wheelchair right up to it, or a person can get close to read it. And that's an important piece of all this. And Gabe mentioned the timeline. The timeline actually doesn't go all the way down to Walnut Street. And it's specific that way because there's steps. Somebody in a wheelchair couldn't get down the steps to see all the timeline. So the timeline starts at the top step and works its way back to the courthouse. So here, you'll see the timeline actually starts here and works back up. And again, that's part of the accessibility consciousness that we have for the place.
And the other aspect too of this space, since we're on the slide, is there are some very nice, stone wing walls there, and we'd like to reuse those in the historic aspect and trying to recreate this. What allowed us to do this is reorienting the stair going down to the bottom level of the courthouse. So it really will create a very welcoming entrance.
We gained about five more feet there.
I got a little question to ask. I'm with, my name's Ron Davis. I'm a life member of the VFW, American Legion, BVA, and I don't know how many more. But you haven't really mentioned too much about the monuments. are they gonna all be together, or are you gonna spread them out? Or is
And I
this
mean all the monuments.
all of them?
We understand. Maybe one more, Juliana. There's one that's. So Gabe mentioned that we were very specific about making. We don't want a cemetery. I mean that's one thing
Yeah.
we want to get away from. Honestly, today you have a cemetery out there, and it's not accessible. People, if somebody in a wheelchair couldn't go up to read your monument today.
Well,
And
that's
that's-
one of the things we're all concerned about, is if they're gonna be fenced in for the protection, because mainly, that's the only reason the fence is up around there now, is to keep the protection and some of these people from sitting on them and doing other things, and I'm afraid that it wouldn't take very long for them start to be damaged if they're not fenced in and locked.
Well, these won't
Yeah.
be fenced in.
Huh?
And they aren't going to be fenced in.
They're not?
No. And we really feel that for a couple of reasons. I mean, one, from somebody in a wheelchair today couldn't get up to read your plaque today. And we feel that's an important aspect of this. And as well, I mean, we just finished the Veterans Memorial at the state capitol. I mean, none of that's fenced in. Somebody, that's fully accessible. I mean, you've got to expect, this could be better lit. It's going to be more accessible, more eyes. We're going to have cameras here. I mean, there's going to be much more security, eyes on the street here. So but we just feel that it doesn't pay homage to what you have today. And so what we've done is deliberately built a wall here, put the larger Veterans Memorial up here, and then removed them off the low barriers and put them up higher so that they're ADA accessible.
Okay, you're gonna.
They're actually
mount in that wall.
mount on that wall.
Okay, I wasn't clear on
You
that.
can still be putting the wreaths and
So
stuff.
we can still.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's actually, I mean,
It's still centered and gathered together. Yes.
Okay, the DAR has their rock, I call it the rock. I'm with the Colonel Zachary Morgan chapter, and I'm a descendant from Zachary Morgan and all the other people in this area. I'm still fighting the Revolutionary War, in case you didn't know. Where are you putting it?
it's one of those. It's one of those.
So we won't have
Your
the
rock is
stuff.
gone. Your rock is gone.
You want those DAR members to be sitting on the foot of your bed at night?
It's
You're up.
it's deliberate as far as to integrate it into the design. So we've got a couple options. One, it's going on that wall, and the other place is actually on, next to these memorial walls. There's a place over there as well. So we've got a couple options. I mean, those are things that can be,
But they will be protected.
well, protected in the sense that they're mounted on a wall, so I can't steal it.
Can't sit on it.
Somebody can't sit on it.
Well, I mean, as long as someone climbs up on the wall.
All these walls too don't have, and that's one thing the commission was very deliberate in, is make seat walls. We want benches. Benches are something we've talked about that, really aren't integrated here, but the walls are high enough somebody's not gonna sit on, and they're peaked.
They're not
peaked,
flat.
so you can't sit on it.
They're like the cap of the wall, that stone that you see. If you look right here, that band of stone, it would have a peak on it like that, so we're pointy. It's all gonna be, everybody's gonna be sitting or sleeping on it.
And I think the other thing that should be at least emphasized is that there is consideration, being president of the Historical Society and the state was formed from the Civil War, there is no memorial relative to the Civil War out there. So it does, these designs do offer us spaces still to be remaining that if somebody might wish to honor the Civil War or the Civil War veterans, that it would be available.
And we've even talked about the size, we've got to take inventory of everything, but we've even talked about the size of other masonry aspects, be it the columns or the other walls. Let's think of forward so that we have specific dedicated places for those monuments to be when they come along. Because, in the future, if there's, God forbid, a reason to have another monument for a war or anything else, we want to try to anticipate how that would integrate in, or locations where things could go. Yeah.
I just had a suggestion about the statue. We already have Patrick Henry inside. I would consider very strongly Wakeman T. Willie. Wakeman T. Willie, in keeping with Commissioner Hawkins' comment about the Civil War. I mean, Wigman T. Willie is a father of our state. He introduced the statehood bill in the United States Congress. He is one of Morgantown's most important historic figures. And in Wigman, with the Willie Amendments that got our Constitution accepted by the Congress, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. By the way, his law office was right across from the plaza on Chancery, right here. So, just for consideration. And there is no life-size statue of Wigman T. Willie in the state of West Virginia. There's a bust in front of his former home over here across the bridge. But we've already got Patrick Henry. I mean, if this is Morgantown's plaza, it might be best to be Wigman T. Willie.
Yeah, the reality of the Patrick Henry we have is actually a replica of what was there, and it's kind of a poor plaster mold of it, right? And we're trying to pay a little better homage to him with a bronze. Please.
We were talking about one of the trees was going to be dogwood. Is it going to be an American dogwood? Because right now they're under attack by some virus or something.
Yeah, that's a hybrid.
Hybrid. Okay, good.
That particular variety.
Why don't you explain to them about the inside stairwell where Patrick
yeah,
Henry
we'll get
is,
to the end.
about why you're moving him outside?
Yeah. Thank you. It's one of the
That'd be easier to explain.
Thank you, Bobby. We didn't get to the end, so to get there. One of the things from an ADA perspective is also, I mean, we can get everybody to the front door, but honestly today, inside the courthouse, it's not compliant. So when you get somebody in the front door today, you have a security desk here, but there's actually somebody needs to ride a chairlift that goes down the side of the stairs to get down to the other level. So what we're proposing is that we're actually going to restore the historic curved stairs that are within that turret and put the lift, actually put a chair lift in here. Can we go to the next slide? So it actually would be a much more suitable lift. Just today that lift that's there isn't compliant. So thank you, Bobby. That's an important a motivator to get the bust out or get the statue out. But we feel that's an important aspect of the overall ADA compliance of the building.
Well, there's where the using area within the design and incorporate a statue later.
It's a consideration. We hadn't thought of a second one.
And there certainly could be, where we were talking about the bricks going into the wall, that would be, there's a natural space there that, could be a location. It's just the first, off the top of my head, thought on that.
Let's keep in mind, for perspective, that statues do cost a lot of money. Right. So they are, if you would, possibly the lowest on the totem pole.
Oh, yeah. I'm
Okay.
thinking long term.
These are the sponsored items that we
Yeah.
spoke about that,
Sure.
tomorrow the vote will be that we're commissioned to hopefully accept the Historical Society's offer to offer as a 501c, so that if somebody actually does wish to sponsor a portion or the entire courthouse square, they could possibly, make their donation through the Historical Society, and then they get a tax write-off for that, since we being the Historical Society or a 501c.
Yeah,
And they've already voted in assent to that, so.
That's an
Later
important
on,
point.
though, I would advocate for consideration. Wigman T. Willie does not have a suitable monument, and as Gabe and Mike Buck know, I was on the committee to get Francis Pierpont up and Wheeling and raise the money for that, and we can do it here in Morgantown.
But to Ed's point, he was about to say, I think that aspect of having components of this design being donations, folks actually kind of.
So when we start to look at, what's all this going to cost, when we get to that point later on in the development of the design, we have another column that says, well, what's it worth? And this is what the sponsorship amounts would be. And Travis, to get your input on Francis Pierpont costs, to get a sense of that. But that is very important because people are passionate about things, right? I've heard a lot of passion here, and that's great. So that passion either to fundraise or folks that have means or corporations that want to sponsor, there are tremendous opportunities to do that. And we do this all the time with park systems around the country, and you have that same great opportunity here. So that perhaps not all of this is on the public dime, but have the public participate through sponsorships.
Other questions or anything else we can?
What are you gonna do with the statue that's in the stairwell?
We haven't really kind of gotten there yet, but when we've talked about maybe the historical society here in town would receive it, and it'd be a natural place for it to reside. But I think that's
I was just curious.
That could also be a second or third phase because of the finances and so on.
Yeah.
Just as a statue right there may be the second phase, we don't know. That's why we're looking at input, getting ideas from what you all would be interested in seeing, and that's what we're trying to find out right now. But what we wanted to share with you was the concept, which we really like, and there's even the possibility, we've talked on the river that possibly we could put little plaques or whatever to say parts of the river where, yeah, where they are, and so on. So there's just a lot more to this at this time.
Yes,
Along where the river is, where Morgantown is right in front as you go, are you going to put Morgantown and
Oh, yeah.
Mason-Dixon line? Because
Yeah,
I
go
didn't
back
see
to the
anything
plan.
written there, but.
Right. So each of the circles, there were little nodes on the river, and I neglected to mention, there's
Yeah.
another location like Fairlawn, where other
Yeah, I was
major
gonna-
cities
That's what we're saying.
proportionally where you are, yeah.
To show where the locks are, I
Oh,
think
okay.
that's important. I mean, landmarks. I mean,
All
part of
right.
it.
I saw the dots, but if nobody knows what those
Yeah.
dots are.
Right.
Yeah, and I didn't
That's a
mention it,
good
so I'm
point.
glad you brought that up.
And part of it was how do we give people a sense of the rich heritage of the county and what does the county have to offer? Well, the river's a big part of the county, feature. So that's an important piece of it. So we're excited by that, and we think that's going to be a real design feature that's going to hearken to the historical aspects. But I think it's going to differentiate this courthouse from any other maybe in the country. Honestly, I don't. The only one we've seen like this is in St. Louis or
Memphis, there's a river.
Memphis.
Memphis. Memphis is the one, and then one in Louisville. I think Louisville has a little one too on the Riverwalk. So, but it's pretty unique. We were thinking about what other materials could we celebrate. Well, glass is a huge part of the heritage of the area. So, I mean, we might even look at Davis Lynch Glass and see how they might play a part of. Maybe they're the sponsor of that glass river. I mean, that's something we haven't gone to, but those are things we're thinking about. What are the heritage pieces of this county, and the river, the glass are important.
I don't want to open a can of worms, but I know benches have been discussed at length many times over, and I know it's been a problem. But you have a lot of the population that's going to come to the courthouse that may not be in a wheelchair, may not be completely disabled, but still need a place to maybe rest a minute. Say they park somewhere downtown and walk into the courthouse area and you're asleep. And also, there's a bus stop there. You plan to move in?
The idea, and what we understand right now.
There's no bus
a lot of
stop.
folks-
No bus
Yeah,
stop.
that's
There's no bus stop.
No,
There isn't?
no ma'am.
No, that was
It's been moved.
Subdivision?
It's up in front of the city building,
Yeah.
the new city police station. There's a bus stop there.
So the idea, the first stage of getting folks into this plaza is to light it up and to really create it as a place people want to move through, not loiter in. On the other end of the spectrum of what happens when we have lots of seating. So keeping it lit up and vibrant, and then once the commissioners would see it fit to add benches after, people feel safe there, right? And it's a place that's starting to be vibrant again. That's always an option. And the way it's set up is that we have these locations that are natural locations to put benches, right? So that's always that option, but this is where we wanted to start and then move into that.
Gotta change the behavior.
And again, if anyone has any other suggestions or ideas, you can send it, mail them to us by December 9th, because we want to start finalizing some of your ideas, questions, concerns. And that's why, for example, where we moved, like he said, he moved the, what did you call them?
The memory bricks.
The memory bricks, because we wanted them more open to the public. So that's why they came up with the idea, so you could go right up to it. So there's other ideas, a statue right there, I mean, it's another option we're looking at. It doesn't mean it's gonna be finalized, or it may be. It's, again, still we're working on that.
But this is your chance, the public's chance to kind of be listening, but
Yes.
we appreciate that. I mean, this is a pretty important project. It's gonna make a big impact downtown and to the county, so.
We want to thank you for coming, and if you have like individual questions or comments, they're going to hang around, or you want to say anything to us, we really appreciate you going out and talking about it, and we have the newspaper here, we have the TV and pictures, so hopefully we can move forward on this. So we want to thank you very much for taking time to come this evening. Thank you very much.